I'm Tom Montag from Fairwater, Wisconsin, which is at the far western edge of Fond du Lac County. We're about 25 miles west of Fond du Lac, 8 miles south of Ripon. My wife was president of the village for, I don't know, almost 30 years, so I told everyone I got to sleep with the president. I tried to figure that out. It would have been 47, 57, 61 would be 39 years, 38 years? No, 48 years.
48 years.
48 years, yeah. Or 58
58,
years.
61? 58 years.
58 years, yeah, my goodness. Those early ones were not saved. I was a weird kid. I grew up on an Iowa farm, and nobody around me was like me, so I ended up strangely bent, and I thought I was going to be the great American novelist, having read Thomas Wolfe, but I turned out to be a poet instead, so no fiction. I tell people life is too short for fiction. It may not be too short for fiction, but I don't have time for it. I like to say that William Carlos Williams, Robert Creeley, and William Clefcorn, the first two you probably know. Clefcorn was a Nebraska poet who died about 2-3 years ago now, who put on masks and showed me that I don't have to be me to create a poem. I can create a poem as someone else, and so I have, I don't know, 5 or 6 different series where I am other people speaking in the poem. That's a dramatic monologue of Robert Browning, made local to the Middle West. So, and I started that writing poems from my wife's great-great-grandfather's letters home during the Civil War. He wrote, typed up, single-spaced, a stack of letters about that thick to his wife, and I found the poetry in them. And there was a lot of poetry in them. There was even a Robert Creeley poem in there. I find the more a man has here, the worse it is, the more he has to pack. It is useless for us to make ourselves the mules. Middle Ground is my collected early poems. In This Place collects 1980. This is up to 82. This is 82 to 2014. In there I have Ben Zen, one of those characters I was talking about. Imagination's Place, the Old Poet Poems, another mask. 70 at 70, which is 70 poems gathered at my 70th year to celebrate making it to 70. And I have a chapbook coming out in April called The River Will Tell You, which the poems were written along the Keyapaha River in north central Nebraska a year ago in October, all written in one place at one time. So they're united by the cottonwoods and the river and the coyotes and the grass there and that sort of thing. So that makes a chapbook. And then in November and December, something got into me, and I wrote about 150 poems under the title of The Woman in an Imaginary Painting, about an imaginary painting, and I see that woman, and we have this discussion about there and here, and what's art and what's life, and what can cross and what can't, and that sort of thing. And then started translating poems from the Chinese, and I've done about 100 and I don't know, 120, 150 of those at this point, and I'm nowhere near done doing that. It's still on my desk to continue. I also write prose, creative nonfiction, a memoir of growing up on the farm in Iowa, trying to figure out why and how I became a poet. And then that was woven in with a trip back there where I went back and experienced that whole place as a, man trying to go home again. So that was a memoir sort of thing. And then 2 books of essays, Kissing Poetry's Sister, and The Idea of the Local. Place always has been important to me, and I'm of the William Carlos Williams Chinese poet's belief that there's no ideas but in the things of this world, and what the poet does is try to let those things speak. And so the poet's job is to pay attention, let those things come to you, and if you are loving in relation to them, they will tell you, and you write it down. So that's essentially what I do. I think you can be a poet without ever writing a poem. That surprises people when I say that. But poetry is a way of relating to the world, a way of understanding the world, a way of stepping into the world and stepping back from the world, and that's what I do. I never have goals. My things come to me. I don't plan them. I didn't plan 150 poems coming out like that. And I trust that they will keep happening. It hasn't been a problem. I have a blog and a Facebook page, and I put one poem up on my blog every day. Well, now I'm doing 2 every day, and 1 poem up on my Facebook page every day. So that's 3 poems a day, and I am betting that I won't run out of poems to put up 3 a day before I die. So I don't have to have goals.
Sure.
That's keeping me busy. Well, I don't know where poetry goes, but what I would like to see poets do is make conscientious effort to give back, to foster the next generation of poets coming up, to help those that are beginning to find their way. You do that by teaching. I teach creative nonfiction and poetry for the Mill, a writer's place in Appleton. And that's very rewarding, and I have seen poets develop. One of them just got a chapbook accepted, and many of the poems in it were written as assignments for my class, and that makes you feel very good. Editing, sponsoring, sponsoring poetry readings, talking to young people about poetry, all those things I would like to see poets invest in. So Ben Zen is a little Oriental monk in modern day America, wondering what the heck is going on and saying things. And I heard what he was saying, and so I wrote him down. And sometimes I would hear myself say something to somebody, and I said, "Oh, sorry, that was Ben," and then I have to write it down because it was Ben talking through me. So this is Ben. I push the mountain, Ben says, and push the mountain, and still the mountain pushes back. You can't always go to the cave of 1,000 Buddhas, Ben says, and you can never come back the same. You are welcome, the holy man said, to all the wood I have. I have no fish either. If the wise man is surprised, Ben says, express surprise yourself. Robert Creeley told a story about a poet at a Middle Western university who gave a reading, and afterwards the students asked questions, and one of them said, "That poem you read, was that a real poem or did you just make it up?" This is a real poem called Appalachia, Summer 1968. He's thin as a rail. He's wearing denim overalls, no shirt. I say, "How come you're so skinny?" He says, "Ain't no fat people in the mountains." He's chewing a plug of tobacco. Our smart aleck from New York asks, "How old are you?" The mountain kid says, 14. New York says, "Then give me a chaw of that," and he stuffs a wad in his mouth. Later he's puking his guts out around the corner of the house. Mountain kid just smiles. He looks off into the distance, speaks his wisdom. You're supposed to spit the juice out. From Imagination's Place, the old poet poems. He goes out beyond the edge of lamplight into the encircling darkness, alone, and calls the demons in. They come for him and drag him through the night. When he returns, broken, torn, he writes of it. He calls them poems. And one from 70 at 70. I gave a reading in Denver at the beginning of October, and people in the audience broke into spontaneous applause for this one, so I thought I would share it. It made me feel really good. Don't say tree, say maple and locust and oak. Say red-breasted grosbeak and indigo bunting. Say cumulus and horsetail. The river has a name. Say it. Each green thing does. Don't say weed or flower. Say creeping Charlie. Say peony. Say maple again. Oak, locust, elm, and jack pine. Say beauty by its name. This is Fairwater poet Tom Montag, hoping that you have a good poetry month.